Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Oldham County Fiscal Court. I'm David Vogel, Judge Executive. We're happy to have you here today for our first meeting on June 6, 2023. If you're able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. If you have a cell phone with you, please turn it to off or vibrate. Tara, will you please call the roll?
Magistrate Likens.
Here.
Magistrate Tice.
Here.
Magistrate Woosley.
Here.
Magistrate Jeffries.
Here.
Magistrate Hounds.
Here.
Magistrate Hawkins.
Here.
Magistrate Dye.
Present.
Magistrate Logston. Judge Vogel.
Here. Having all 9 members of the Fiscal Court, this meeting is now in session. Is there a motion to accept the agenda?
Second.
Are there any additions or deletions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Now we'll have our clerk, Tara Long. Please read the minutes from our, we've had actually minutes from the last 3 meetings, 2 of which were extremely short.
All right. May 16th, 2023, the Oldham County Fiscal Court convened at a regular meeting at 2:04 p.m. with Judge Executive David Vogel, County Attorney Barry Baxter, and the following magistrates in attendance: Likens, Tice, Woosley, Jeffries, Hound, Hawkins, Dye, and Logston. Motion made by Magistrate Dye and seconded by Magistrate Hounds to approve the agenda. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Logston and seconded by Magistrate Jeffries to approve the minutes of May 2nd. Motion carried unanimously. Rebecca Socklin, Solid Waste and Recycling and Grants Coordinator, announced the successful Pick the Parks event on May 13th with 30 volunteers. Amy Alvey, County Clerk, reminded citizens of the 9 polling locations for Election Day, open until 6 p.m., and stated that 1,919 people took advantage of early voting. Barry Baxter, County Attorney, reported that overpayments for FEMA grants to James and Stacy Crone have been paid in full in the amount of $28,842.32. Mr. Baxter reported a second family is in the process of procuring funds for the repayment and will have until the end of the month to do so, or suit will be filed against them. Pam Isaac, Lakewood Valley, Crestwood, Kentucky, declined to provide home address. Requested a task force be created with the advisement of the Federal Motor Carrier Association to address traffic concerns, accidents, and speed. Stated Lakewood Valley property conditions are not up to standard and is not pleased with the code enforcement efforts. Stated disappointment in the Oldham County pool being closed again this summer as many citizens do not have access to a pool. Expressed disappointment at the expense of the new animal control building. Judge Vogel responded to Ms. Isaac's comments. Magistrate Hawkins stated she has been involved with code enforcement regarding Lakewood Valley and other areas within her district. Magistrate Likens stated public comment is a privilege and made a motion that citizens should be required to provide an address to speak during public comment. No second was made. Magistrate Hound stated that citizens should follow expectations for public comment. Judge Vogel presented Horace Herod the Spirit of Oldham County Award for his service to the county. The following bids were for road salt fiscal year 24 were opened in red. Cargill for 1,800 tons of minimum at $109.32 a ton. Compass Minerals, 1,000 tons minimum at $108.20 a ton. Morton Salt at 1,500 tons minimum at $96.46 a ton. The bids were provided to the road superintendent and for review and recommendation. Sheriff Tim Wakefield provided the April activity report for the Sheriff's Office. Jim Sullivan, County Engineer, presented Safe Streets and Roads for All grant. Motion made by Magistrate Jeffries and seconded by Magistrate Hounds to authorize the Fiscal Court to approve the grant match. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Hounds and seconded by Magistrate Woosley to approve the payment of the payables as submitted. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Hounds and seconded by Magistrate Woosley to approve the budget transfers as submitted. Motion carried unanimously. Judge Vogel explained the 2 lines of the fiscal year budget presented for public hearing. County Road Aid, $685,825, and Mineral Severance Tax, $204,000. County Road Aid is used towards the general repair and upkeep of county roads, while the Mineral Severance Tax is used toward the county's match of various transportation improvement projects, such as the bike and pedestrian trail expansions, rail underpass, and the Highway 329 realignment project. As required by the Department for Local Government, the floor was open for public comment for the purpose of obtaining citizens' comments regarding possible uses of the county road aid and local government economic assistance funds. There being no public comment, the public hearing was closed. Motion made by Magistrate Tice and seconded by Magistrate Hawkins to authorize Judge Vogel to sign the annual waste tire grant agreement in the amount of $4,000 with no match required as submitted. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Jeffries and seconded by Magistrate Dye to adopt Resolution 01-05-16-23, granting approval to dissolve Briar Hill Taxing District. Discussion followed. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Woosley and seconded by Magistrate Dye to authorize Judge Vogel to sign the agreement with Flock Safety as submitted. Discussion followed. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Woosley and seconded by Magistrate Hawkins to hire Kyle Myers and William Moore as seasonal park laborers at a rate of $15 an hour, effective May 18th. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Hounds and seconded by Magistrate Logston to renew Chief Greg Smith's contract with Oldham County Police Department as submitted. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Dye and seconded by Magistrate Jeffries to appoint Blaine Anderson, Adam Forsyth, Jane Cobble Royer to the reapportionment board to be paid at a rate of $50 an hour. Discussion followed. Motion carried unanimously. Jim Allen of 1416 Oldham View Drive spoke in support of the Flux camera purchase, inquired if the fiscal court could do any cost sharing with neighborhoods or HOAs interested in pursuing their own flock cameras. Judge Vogel responded to Mr. Allen's comments. Motion was made by Magistrate Dye and seconded by Magistrate Hounds to adjourn the meeting. Motion carried unanimously and the meeting adjourned at 3:35 p.m.
You heard the reading of our minutes from May 16th. Is there a motion?
So move. Second.
Second.
Correction? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Now we have the reading of two very short minutes.
May 24th, 2023, the Oldham County Fiscal Court convened for a special meeting at 11:15 a.m. with Judge Executive David Vogel and the following magistrates in attendance: Tice, Woosley, Jeffries, Hounds, Hawkins, and Dye. Motion made by Judge Vogel and seconded by Magistrate Jeffries to go into closed session pursuant KRS 61.8101F, discussion or hearings which may lead to the appointment, discipline, or dismissal of an individual employee. Motion carried unanimously. Magistrate Likens arrived at 11:15 a.m. Magistrate Logston arrived at 1:21 p.m. Magistrate Likens departed at 1:40 p.m. Motion was made by Magistrate Dye and seconded by Magistrate Hounds to reconvene the open meeting. Motion carried unanimously. Motion was made by Magistrate Dye and seconded by Magistrate Hawkins to adjourn the meeting. Motion carried unanimously and the meeting adjourned at 1:44 p.m.
You've heard the reading of our minutes from May 24th. Is there a motion to accept?
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. One more.
June 2nd, 2023, the Oldham County Fiscal Court convened for a special meeting at 5:01 p.m. with Judge Executive David Vogel and the following magistrates in attendance: Tice, Woosley, Jeffries, Hounds, Hawkins, Dye, and Logston. Magistrate Likens was absent. Motion was made by Judge Vogel and seconded by Magistrate Hounds to go into closed session pursuant KRS 61.8101F, discussion or hearings which might lead to the appointment, discipline, or dismissal of an individual employee. Motion carried unanimously. Magistrate Logston departed at 6:04 p.m. Motion made by Magistrate Dye and seconded by Magistrate Woosley to reconvene the open meeting. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Hounds and seconded by Magistrate Hawkins to adjourn the meeting. Motion carried unanimously and the meeting adjourned at 6:24 p.m.
You've heard the reading of our minutes from the meeting on June 2nd. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Abstain? Right, correct. Thank you. All right, thank you. Time now for public comment. That's the time during the meeting when anyone who's come to address the fiscal court is able to do so. We generally allow 4 minutes for public presentation. Is there anybody here who would like to speak during public comment? Saying no one, I'll close public comment and go on to the first item on our agenda today. And I'm very happy to welcome President Clint Cahill from Baptist Health and Justin Leidy from the Baptist Foundation Board, and one guest they have with me whose name escapes me right at the second, but I'm sure you'll be able to bring us up to date on who he is as well. President Cahill, welcome to Oldham Fiscal Court.
Thank you so much. Let's see, my icons are gone. Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much. Well, Judge Vogel and to the Fiscal Court, thank you so much for having us here today to present and talk about a health need that we have in our community and a solution that we have at Baptist Health to address a very crucial need that I think that we are all aware of as it relates to mental health. With me today, as Judge mentioned, we have myself. I'm Clint Cahill. I'm the president of the hospital here in the Grange, of which I have a privilege to serve. We have Justin Leidy, who is our executive director of our Baptist Health Foundation. That's the philanthropic arm of Baptist Health that directly supports our hospital in LaGrange, as well as the care that we provide. And I also have Mr. Chris Holcomb, who is our System Associate Vice President of Baptist Health System for Behavioral Health Services. So we're all here today to provide a little insight into the project that we have getting ready to start. I hope that today's presentation is not a surprise to anyone about the fact that we are developing a behavioral health strategy at our hospital. I'm pleased that last week we were able to attend the Mental Health Task Force of Oldham County and present this very same initiative to that task force who is dedicated to address mental health in our county. So with that, several slides in this presentation that I'd like to share. But Baptist Health is investing $10 million to bring behavioral health services to our LaGrange campus. And what do we mean by behavioral health service? By behavioral health, the short answer is behavioral health is mental health, which among other things includes stressors and crises and stress-related physical symptoms. The reason we use behavioral health is that many diagnoses involve multiple factors, and behavioral health covers all of them to offer a holistic approach to behavioral health care. Our program will both offer inpatient and outpatient services, inpatient being when you're in a hospital, and outpatient services being those that you go seek care from a provider outside of the hospital. That part is important because those outpatient services are going to help us to ensure that our patients who have been admitted can remain out of the hospital and don't get readmitted unless there is another crisis or another need to seek care within the hospital. So we will have both of the major components of the program right here in LaGrange. So we are working to get these services up and running as quickly as we possibly can. We have a lot of work to do, but anticipate our outpatient services being available in January of 2024, assuming all of our construction and everything moving forward as planned, and our inpatient services available in the summer of 2024. So why this investment, and why are we looking to address the mental health needs? Many of you in this room know that we are responding to a major community need as it relates to mental health. Currently, there are no hospital-based inpatient beds in Oldham County or the counties directly northeast, south, or east of Oldham County. There are also very limited outpatient services like physician office or nurse practitioner offices for this service. These issues also impact our hospital as well. We'll have many times patients on our inpatient unit who have been cleared medically but have a mental health need where they need further treatment, and we have to hold the patient in the hospital waiting for a bed to open up. It also impacts our emergency department because within the emergency department, people come in mental health crises and need another place or a venue for treatment that we don't currently offer. And this will ultimately offer that next level of care for them so we can discharge from the emergency department into the right level of care. The lack of the resources in Oldham County affects the people who live here and in surrounding counties that we serve, such as Henry, Trimble, Carroll, and Shelby. Most of those patients that are seeking this service must travel to Jefferson County or further for an inpatient mental health service, behavioral health service, or an outpatient opportunity as well. When they have to travel that far, as many of you know, that becomes a barrier to care, that distance of trying to seek that service. So ultimately, us being here in Oldham County offering the service will allow us to bring the service closer to home and eliminate that need. We also we hear about these services anecdotally, but we've studied the issue as well. We've all had people in our lives who suffer from mental health matters, but as we have looked into this, we at the hospital have a community health needs assessment that we do. It's been identified that mental health, by respondents of those in our community, that mental health is one of the top leading factors of health, of problems with their health that they are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. I think that's very telling. This community health needs assessment is very much like what Oldham County does with the health department in terms of their health needs assessment, which has identified mental health as being a challenge for Oldham County and thus the mental health task force that we have underway. So Baptist Health went to work on this issue, and we put together a plan to bring high quality services right here to Oldham County. It is the largest project investment that we've had in hospital services in the past 18 years. This $10 million investment is. The expansion will make our hospital and our community an even better place. I told you we were working quickly on this, and we're planning to get started in the renovations this summer. That's our plan. The inpatient unit will be an overhaul, and we are taking an existing wing of the hospital and we'll transform it into a one-of-a-kind mental health healing environment. These are specifically designed renovations for behavioral health services. The unit will be self-contained with dining, recreation space, therapy space, and certainly would be a secured unit. The inpatient unit will have 11 beds, and on the screen here is what the unit will look like. As we progress through the presentation, there will be some more pictures, and I can share with you a little bit more about what the unit will look like as well. But rarely are behavioral health inpatient rooms private, but not at our facility. Many behavioral health inpatient rooms are semi-private rooms. You're sharing with somebody else that's in the hospital. But at Baptist Health LaGrange, we will have all of our 11 beds will be private rooms. The design of the unit itself features a lot of things we know to be calming, like natural light, murals depicting nature, and furniture with clean, modern lines. The plans also call for a secure outdoor space, which is something that many psychiatric or behavioral health hospitals are not able to offer, but because we're designing this with the patient in mind and what we want for our patients, we're able to add that on into this project as well. As we talked about before, the outpatient services are crucial to the program's success. We plan to house our outpatient practice just down the street from the hospital in a building that we call Medical Park 3. You can see it there on the slide. That's Medical Park 3. Many know it as our urgent care building. The urgent care is on the first floor of the building. Our outpatient behavioral health will be located on the second floor of the building. And we also house our occupational medicine program in this facility. This facility facility will be renovated, and all 3 of those will be included in this facility. It won't be as extensive as a renovation in that facility, so that's why we think that we can get that turned around a little bit quicker than we can on the very extensive inpatient renovation and construction. The outpatient services that we will offer are for patients ages 6 and up, and those that need an inpatient stay would be for patients that are 18 and up. I will say that Baptist Health LaGrange will be the latest Baptist Health hospital adding behavioral health services, which has been very successful in our other markets. So at this point, I would like to turn this over to Chris Holcomb, who's going to talk to the group today about Baptist Health's approach to behavioral health services and the opportunity that we have right here at Baptist LaGrange. So, Chris, I welcome you up.
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate that, Clint. It's a wonderful opportunity to actually kind of be here today to address the fiscal court. This is a topic and area that I'm very, very passionate about. I started with the organization 21 years ago, actually working in an inpatient psychiatric setting. And one of the things that I noticed at that point was there was a lot of gaps in services. I was put in my role about 4 years ago, looking at things from a sister perspective. And one of the things that I noticed that was a common theme as I went from each of our 9 different hospital markets was there were so many gaps. And so many people would be asking, why are so many folks coming back to our emergency departments and having high recidivism? A lot of people would come in complaining of, heart palpitations, and it end up being anxiety that was not being treated, and therefore the cycle would continue. Some places would end up having inpatient services, but not outpatient services, so you did not have that yin and yang balance. So we basically set out at that point to develop a strategy that would really look at addressing the various needs in each market. And as Clint mentioned earlier, the community needs assessment is completed every 3 years, and mental health was the top in 8 of our 9 hospital markets across the system. So it's time for us to do really something about that, and we're doing as much as we can to make an investment to integrate care. But one of the things that I will always say, and that I think we all could agree on here, is the needs are greater than the resources throughout the state and throughout the nation. So we're happy to go ahead and actually announce what we're trying to accomplish here at Baptist Health LaGrange. This is an exciting initiative. So as we kind of go through the presentation here, I kind of just jotted down a few notes. And one of the unique things about this facility is every time, this will be our 5th out of 9 hospitals that will offer inpatient services. But at all other 4 locations, we've always been limited with space and with a lot of other issues. Here, that's not the case. So very, very unique to go ahead and be able to kind of design services that's going to be completely around the program. But when Clint and I started really dreaming about this, well over a year ago, one of the things that we talked about is, and of course, Oldham County is near and dear to us, and so, it has to be very different and unique. Many of you that are familiar with inpatient psychiatric services still think about how it's really completely like in the 20th century in terms of almost being institutionalized. And we want to get away from that. When we're talking about a healing environment, your environment of care is critical. You have to have a lot of natural light. You have to have a lot of various therapies. But the environment is so unique. This is one of the only places that I'm aware of in the state, so I'll go around Kentucky as well as the U.S., that will have all private rooms. The focus here is going to be on quality, not quantity. So if you heard Clint say 11 beds, not a lot, but it's a starting point. And again, all are going to be private, and also have that outdoor space as well. So we're really, really excited about that. And because we have the space that we want, we really want to focus on bringing in a lot of unique individuals. Just as important as the environment of care, it's important that you bring in the specialized staff. So with that, to have the various therapies that would end up being, from art, from music, recreational therapy, indoor, outdoor space. We want to be able to kind of practice what we preach. Most of the people, in my experience, that end up going to an inpatient program are not there for chronic mental illness. They're there for depression and anxiety. That's the primary reasons. So if an individual goes into an environment that is not conducive to kind of healing, it's very hard to end up saying, utilize your support system, focus on this, and this, exercise. We're trying to create an environment that will offer all of those things. That will be very unique and something that Oldham County can be very, very proud of. We have had a unique, may have gotten off a little bit with the slides, guys. I do apologize. We have been, it's been very remarkable that out of all the locations that I've been, we have had the greatest interest before the unit was even announced, inpatient or outpatient. The response from psychiatrists reaching out to me totaled in double digits of people wanted to be a part of this. So many people are excited about this, and they want to live and work in Oldham County. So that was something I'm just not accustomed to be completely honest with you, to have psychiatrists really kind of beating down the door to be a part of it. And we're at the point where we are truly putting the horse before the cart. And that's not always been the case, but we have went ahead and actually hired a medical director, Dr. Christine Balla, a recent graduate of U of L. She is a double-boarded psychiatrist, also in child and adolescent as well as adults. So we're very excited to have her, and she's working with us to really develop the inpatient program and outpatient services as well. So really kind of relying on her expertise. As Clint mentioned earlier, Baptist Health LaGrange will be our latest hospital where we will be providing inpatient services. But we have had a very extensive strategy going on for the last 4 years. And the key is we've really wanted to increase access points. Most of you are aware when you turn on the TV and listen to the news, that's one of the various challenges that you hear. People are having a hard time to get the help that they need, the quality help that they need. So fortunately, we have been able to go ahead and expand access points dramatically. Over the past 4 years, we've actually increased over 100 access points across the state where people can get the help that they need. This is a service that we do not really even advertise for because the need are so great. So we really want to continue to invest as much as we can in this area. Earlier on the screen, it talked about, next year, 2024. One of the things that I'm excited about, and you may have heard Justin speak about in the past, is next year is our 100-year anniversary for the organization, 2024. And psychiatric services actually initially started in 1924. So it truly is the 100-year anniversary. And it's something for us to really celebrate as we go forward with expanding and trying to integrate care. Part of I want to speak just briefly on our model. The model that we're trying to employ is basically a three-pronged approach. Most individuals really struggle to understand the levels of care and to know where to end up going to get the care. We have basically established a 12 hours a day from 7 in the morning to 7 at night hotline that's staffed 365 days a year, where individuals can call and find out about where to go. This is freedom of choice. This is not just about Baptist Health. If they are interested in receiving services elsewhere, we will try to help them make that connection. Essentially, we're trying to help people navigate the system to know where to go. But that was step number one, is to go ahead and actually start to make it easier for people to know where to access care. Number two is we got to remove barriers. Last week when we spoke to the Mental Health Coalition, that's part of what they're working on, and that's great. Looking at transportation, looking at various other aspects that may be problematic. And then the last thing that I really work a lot with our team of physicians and mid-levels across the system is any and everything that we do has to be rooted in evidence-based practices. So we're trying to stay ahead and utilize the latest practices to help people ultimately have the best overall outcomes. So that was just kind of a quick overview about how we kind of approach everything as a system. But the thing I'm probably most excited about, aside just from the overall announcement, is we are looking to actually build in some potential shelf space. Most of the time when we look to design something, we've already outgrown it before we've even got into it. And I think that's also the case in a lot of businesses. So we will have the opportunity to potentially expand as time allows. And what we want to do is we want to lean on the fiscal court, various coalitions in this area, of the school system to help guide us as to what are the needs. What are the needs? And then we will look to see if we can come together to meet those needs specifically for this region and this market. So, really excited about that opportunity. And we will continue to look to individualize services throughout the area. But this is something that is just, to me, again, very, very exciting. And hopefully it will improve outcomes all across this area. So thank you guys so much for allowing me the chance to speak. I apologize about the slides. Apparently I can't talk and also advance the slides at the same time.
Right.
But thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holcomb.
Well, thank you. We
Okay.
appreciate you having us here today. That concludes our formal
Okay.
presentation.
All right, thank you. It was just a little over a year ago. It was May 24th, 2022, when, let's say, very impaired, deranged individual attacked the school in Uvalde, Texas. 18 students were shot and killed, 2 staff members shot and killed. It shook everybody up around the country to hear about this. And in our own community here, Magistrate Woosley suggested that we needed to try to take some action here to do something, not just ignore the issue. And so we did respond by organizing a group of people that are involved in mental health in the community here to meet at our community center. Hospital was there. All kinds of caregivers were there to try to address this problem. What should we do? That evolved in part to the mental health task force that the health department is operating now at this point and continuing to meet, trying to build up the mental health services in our community. No one knows when a tragedy might unfold in some community, and we hope to God it never happens here. But something has to be done to address all levels, and it's not just adults; it's kids. You mentioned as young as I think 6. Did I hear the age of 6 years old? So we are cognizant in trying to respond, and very appreciative of the fact that the hospital is among its expanding services in Oldham County, adding these psychiatric, emotional services to serve the people in our community. We are aware of the fact that you're building a 90,000 square foot building, centralizing your system-wide pharmacy distribution here. I believe I've heard you might have 100 or so pharmacists working there, large staff. We've also all been, shown and told that the hospital will be building a new hospital at 329 and I-71, and the LaGrange Hospital will continue on, but with perhaps a little different mix of services between these 2 hospitals sharing in Oldham County. So I, for one, am very thankful for Baptist Healthcare. If you've lived here for any length of time, you know that at one time, I can't remember the different names we've had. Basic American Medical was one. Mm-hmm. We got a toehold on a hospital, almost lost it at one time prior to Baptist coming here. But Baptist has been here for about 20 years, I believe.
We actually celebrated 30 years just a couple of years ago. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Time has a way of going by, and all of us at one time or another have been in the emergency room, cared for, taken care of by the organization that the Baptist has created. I'm also very pleased to say that we were able in the 2011 to create a unique service between Oldham County Fiscal Court, our ambulance taxing service, and the hospital to provide countywide ambulance service on a sound economic basis. that has gone forward, and over the course of where we were in deep financial trouble in 2011 with the ambulance service, we have had, since we merged with the hospital and you took over the billing and personnel actions there, we have had no increases in the cost of our taxing service for people. So thousands of people in this community have not paid more for ambulance service because of the partnership we were able to strike between Baptist Healthcare, the Fiscal Court, and the Ambulance Taxing District. So I'm very thankful for that. So with these things in mind, I would like to make a motion that the Fiscal Court over the next 4 years, beginning in this month and continuing in each of the next fiscal years, contribute $1 million to the Baptist Hospital Foundation for psychiatric and emotional care services in our community. And I'd like to ask if there's a second to this motion.
Judge, I'll second that, but it's $250,000 a year.
Yeah, well, I meant, divided, $1 million divided by 4 years. I may not have been
I
clear
just didn't
on
want
that.
the public to think we're giving $1 million for 4 years.
Right, I meant over 4 years, $250 a year for 4 years. So we have a motion and a second. Discussion among court members. Anybody have any questions they'd like to ask? And
I'll ask one.
all right.
Something that I was kind of wondering since the presentation in HR committee and then this presentation here, can you talk a little bit about the bills for those in the community? How will that be addressed if somebody cannot afford mental health care? And then what position would you all take to allow somebody to have mental health care or behavioral health care if they cannot afford such?
Yeah. That's a great question. So at Baptist Health, we are a nonprofit organization, and therefore we have charity care policies for those who cannot afford the services that they need and are seeking. So those policies around charity care would be available to our mental health patients as well.
And that would include outpatient as well?
Yes, we
Okay.
have financial policies on the inpatient as well as the outpatient side.
Okay, so would somebody have to apply for that ahead of time or wait till they get a bill or just, because I think that would kind of be a barrier for somebody thinking, I'd like to go, but I'm not insured or whatever the
Yeah.
case may be.
So we try to work proactively and collaboratively with patients as they're experiencing those financial matters or financial situations, in terms of working with them to seek what appropriate information do we need to have as a nonprofit to make sure that we're offering that charity care to the appropriate individuals. So we do have to collect a little bit of information to be able to put that into our charity care policy. But also then working to see what other programs that patient may qualify for in terms of help to have reimbursement for those services as well. So we try to work alongside the patient when we learn of that financial need and to come to the best outcome.
Okay. I'm just thinking how stressful that would be if somebody's already in kind of a fragile state and then they're, in collections,
Certainly.
So-
We, as I mentioned, we try to work collectively with that patient along the way. So
Okay.
we wouldn't want to have any surprises in that, but we certainly would work with the patient to get them to the right providers, right level of care, and to be able to work on those mental health services. Certainly, in an emergency situation, in a fragile state, patients will continue to present to our emergency department, where we will see all the patients coming through and then help to navigate that patient to where they need to be for their health care.
Okay. And then my second question is, you mentioned Carroll County, Henry, Shelby, Oldham, and Trimble.
Mhm.
So are you seeking funds from the other counties' fiscal courts?
So our service area, that's our typical service area: Oldham, Henry, Trimble, Jefferson, or Shelby, and Carroll counties.
Okay.
So we are certainly seeking support for this project in various ways. We have not approached their fiscal courts as of yet, being that our home base is Oldham County. We've approached Oldham County first. It is something we can certainly do with some of the fiscal courts in those other communities as well. But the patients, would be seen here, would be treated here. But not only are we looking to fiscal court as well, we have, like, as I mentioned, we have Justin Lethe with our foundation that we're looking to raise money and raise funds outside of the fiscal court as well through other support to help to fund our project.
Okay, and I just want to state my position. I've gone back and forth with this quite a bit because in my mind I have to reconcile, is this the role of local government? And I'm putting it under the chart of quality of life because I do think it's important for local government to support the quality of life for the citizens that they represent. And so for this one, I'm chalking this one up to a quality of life improvement for our community.
Thank you.
Judge.
Measure Jeffries.
Just a quick question, Mr. Kilby. You might have said this in your presentation, but what's the planned opening date for this expansion or this remodel?
Yeah, so right now our estimated opening date would be in June this month, 2024. So we're thinking about a year. Right now we've got our plans in place. We've submitted those to the state to get the, all the approvals that we need to have. That was submitted a couple weeks ago. That's several weeks to get that approval back, and then we would be under construction, hopefully in the August timeframe. If we can meet those marks, I think that we can be open in the inpatient setting in June of 2024. The outpatient setting, again, less extensive renovations that we have to do. We would get that started and potentially be in the outpatient office possibly by January of 2024. But that's going to be contingent upon getting the construction complete as well as getting the office staffed and all those things that come with it as well.
And how many folks do you anticipate that will be working in this facility?
So combined between the outpatient office and the inpatient, we're looking at about 30 new jobs to our campus.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Measure Woosley.
Mr. Cahill, I think I've mentioned this to you before, but before my time on fiscal court, I was on the school board for many years. And each year, the school board meets with every school site-based council, which is SBDM board, which is really the board that each school has, made of parents and teachers, and those are really where the rubber meets the road for a school district. Each of those years, each of those councils, for the last 2 or 3 years I was on the school board, their main issue wasn't facilities, transportation, books. It was mental health, and it was a cry out from them to say, we've got to do something about mental health in the school district, which led the school district to do various things and change some policies, and they've been a good partner with you guys, and I'm glad fiscal court's going to be a good partner with you guys because it's a big issue, and we've got to get on top of it. So I'm glad you're doing this.
Thank you. I certainly appreciate that and agree with you wholeheartedly.
Measure Tice.
Do you all have a facility in Jefferson County similar to what you're going to be having here?
Your microphone on.
I'm sorry. No. Do you all have a facility anywhere in Jefferson County that does or is like similar to what you're going to be putting here?
On the inpatient side, we do not. On the outpatient side, we will have an outpatient office in Jefferson County, though, as well.
But you don't have any inpatient in Jefferson County?
We do not.
And you don't have any outpatient at present in Jefferson County?
I'm looking at my colleague, Chris. Is there an outpatient office currently?
We do have some integration into primary care. So there are a few facilities such as the Deer Park location. I know that we do have some providers actually embedded in that, but there's only a couple of different practices out of the dozens where we have integrated some care. So we are starting a freestanding outpatient behavioral health practice that will also kind of open around the same time frame as well in about 6 to 7 months there. But correct. In Jefferson County right now, we have minimal services.
In Jefferson County right now, let me say in Oldham County, if you have a crisis or have a mental problem, such as suicide or something, then our police automatically take that person who is in crisis down to Jefferson County. And I think it's University of Louisville.
Yes.
Would that be handled that way into Oldham County now where you would not be going to Jefferson County?
For those patients that need a mental inquest or would need a transport by police, we would still have that go down to the university hospital,
Still
who is
goes there.
equipped and set up to do that.
Okay. Well, and there'll be, I think you said this already, there'll be a psychiatrist on staff for the LaGrange hospitals.
Yes, we have already hired on actually 2 psychiatrists that will cover for a full-time rotation to have somebody at the hospital. Dr. Bala, who Chris mentioned, is our medical director. She's currently at our Richmond facility, where Baptist Health Richmond is also setting up a practice like this. She's starting that practice, and as soon as we are to the point of having care here, she will be coming back here to serve as our medical director and be housed here in LaGrange.
And I assume there'll be a lot of, and if I get the right word, psychologists underneath that psychiatrist that'll handle and see patients here,
Yes.
either outpatients or inpatients at the facility.
Yeah, you got it. So on the inpatient side, we'll have the psychiatrist along with a host of other supportive care for behavioral health patients, seeing patients on the inpatient side. As a patient needs an outpatient service, they would be in our office at Medical Park 3, where we'll have nurse practitioners that are overseen by a psychiatrist who can oversee several nurse practitioners. We'll have nurse practitioners there, along with other mental health workers, social workers in that practice to help to navigate that care for that patient.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else have a question? All right, we have a motion on the floor and a second to provide $250,000 a year for the next fiscal year, beginning in this month and then continuing for the next 3 fiscal years. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Is there anyone opposed?
No.
All right, motion carries 8-1. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
Appreciate your time.
everything you're doing.
Judge, you were going to do it this current fiscal year or next fiscal year?
Now, the first contribution would come this fiscal, right in this month. Okay. Thank you very much. All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda has to do with our payables, our bills for the month, and so when we're ready, we'll go ahead and approve paying the bills.
Judge, I'll move that we approve our payables for this month.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. Are there any questions on the payables? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now we're going to have the first reading of the zoning ordinance amendment changes, and I'm going to let Jim Urban and Brian, you guys want to do that? Okay. Come ahead.
Judge, I'm just going to briefly introduce this since this is a first reading. You're welcome to have a discussion about it if you care to, but these are changes that have been recommended by the Study Review Committee, first of all, which is a subcommittee of the Planning Commission, and then reviewed by the Planning Commission. We did have some modifications that were actually done recently by the Study Review Committee, but were not reviewed by the Planning Commission because we didn't feel that was a necessary step. We did talk to Barry Bagster, County Attorney, about whether or not we should come. This was originally scheduled to be a second reading. He felt those changes were enough that it did require a first reading, and they specifically relate to, and the biggest one is that there are now setback requirements for solar installations, ground mounted, in the residential classification that were added. So, Judge, if you want us to go through those, we can.
Yes, I think we should. I think that's an item that maybe the court would like to talk about.
For first
For
reading.
first reading?
Yeah, there is no restrictions whatsoever about discussing anything in a first reading. First reading, we had a first reading last time. Now we've got changes. We got a new first reading. We could keep duplicating this process indefinitely and never have a second reading. There is no statutory requirement that first reading can't have questions and answers from staff.
I understand. when I found out that we were making the changes, I put this on the back burner for the next meeting. So I haven't.
Okay, well, don't ask any questions.
Master Hounds, if you don't mind, I mean, I think it would be good to just tell everybody what those changes are. You don't have to have a discussion after that if you don't care to. But at least we can point out what they
Well,
are.
I think any magistrate that wants to seek information now, this is a public time to do it, and not just, this is an item that needs to be discussed because there is discussion going on about it. So let's talk about it.
Judge, does this have to be another first reading? Can we choose to make this a second reading since it was already advertised?
No, I
as such?
think that our attorney, Mr. Baxter, has given his opinion that the recommended changes from the first reading were substantial enough that the public needs to have notice that those changes were made. Okay. So, okay, go ahead.
I'm going to touch on the changes that were made from your all's May 2nd first reading and not anything else that wouldn't have changed from your May 2nd first reading to today's first reading. If that's not what the fiscal court members are looking for at any point, just say, hey, circle back and, let's visit those things. So the one of the things that we changed were in the private clubs and event venues, we basically added a definition for event venues. That's a change from your all's May 2nd hearing. And yes, Wayne.
I'm not trying to throw any wrinkle in this. Brian and I spent about 45 minutes to an hour the other day in his office going over and I'm okay with what we're doing. I just have got all of my markups and the stuff that he and I went over were from the second reading. So I hadn't read the second rendition of the first reading.
Right.
Okay. And I don't have a copy of the other. I would like to, if we're discussing this, talk about what the changes are, all changes, not just the ones from the original first reading the second. Do you see what I'm getting at? Because if you haven't had a chance to review the first, then you're not going to know what they all are. And I'm just trying to make this simple so we can understand what we're doing.
If that's the way we're going to go, we should put it on the overhead because that's more information than we were thinking.
Yeah, and if that's where we need to do, that's fine. And then the other, if we go and we do that, when you come up to it, give us a page. And that gives me a second or two.
Right.
I've got my copy. Give me a second or two to get to the page.
Okay.
And you can do whatever level you want to, but that's where I am.
Well,
I'm
under the impression that the majority of concern here has to do with short-term rentals and nothing else. Am I wrong about that?
No,
not today.
Solar energy systems, Judge.
I'm sorry, solar energy, right? Solar energy.
And let me just, and that's a good, but we were planning on doing that for the second reading. So what we were really prepared for today was just the changes that have been made since the first time we were here. In the second reading, you'll get a full presentation of all the changes.
Judge.
All right, and that's fine.
I'm
put mine up
confused
because
on how we can have all the changes in the second reading and still and take a vote to pass that when it hasn't had a chance to be discussed publicly.
I agree with
That's
you,
where
Judge.
I was too, in the fact that I'm gonna may have a change after I read this for the second reading, and it seems like we're going to duplicate efforts. I understand what we're doing, but it seems like we're going to have the same discussion in 30 days.
So let's just go
Well,
through
can
it.
you have the discussion and make changes and pass the and vote on it without coming back for another?
Right.
At what point, Mr. Baxter, do the changes become substantive to the point where we can't pass it without having another reading?
Well, so the issue that I was confronted with, to me, first of all, I enjoy working for you all, but I don't want to get you sued. So if somebody's going to sue, that just creates more work for everybody, including myself and the folks in the planning staff. I felt like moving the limits about where these particular items can be placed from the normal setbacks that would be contained within the ordinance, adding, I think it was 20 feet or so to each one of them, was a pretty significant alteration in what's going on. I also think if you're going to add a definition, and was the definition about private event space in the last time?
It was not. So we added the definition for event venues.
So that to me is a pretty significant thing as well. I mean, that's having done this work for a long time. Every time I'd go in, somebody would come see me about a private event space, and I'd go look for it in the ordinance, and there's no definition of it. So then I'd have to call staff, and staff would say, well, we look at that as a private club, and, you know, it never really seemed to fit. But I think that's a pretty significant thing as well. Once it is presented, I mean, if you have a public hearing and the public is on notice to be there, I think if you're making modifications to it that are not wholesale changes, that's one thing. But I think that these are significant enough that due process would require that people have the opportunity to be aware that the changes are in place and come and speak their minds about it.
And Judge, you know, to simplify this process, we do have study review committee. We go to the planning commission. You can certainly send comments to us. So rather than waiting for a second hearing to make changes or propose changes, it's better to get them before the first reading. And that way we don't have to get kicked back to yet another first reading.
But that's not how we've done it in the past. I'm not saying that we've done it right or we've done it wrong.
Well,
but I was prepared today to have a first reading. And as I spoke with you and Brian in your office a couple of weeks ago, now there's been other changes that have been made. So I would go through the document again before the next fiscal court meeting.
Well, and that's exactly why we wanted to give a short presentation today.
Okay.
So that you would see where we were today.
All right. Well, let's just. Does anybody want to discuss anything in here or ask questions, or do you want to go on and just have first reading and come back and do it later?
Judge, I don't know if your question was answered. At what point do we stop doing the first readings and just move on?
Right. Well, I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah. I'd be okay with this being the second reading, but I'm not the attorney.
Magistrate Jeffries and Magistrate Logson.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Chris on this. I mean, I understand getting the questions out or whatever, but I want to have an opportunity to digest what SRC has changed at the last meeting or whatever, and bringing to us. I mean, it's pretty substantial changes, especially adding the language on the private clubs, and then also adding the language, the setbacks on solar installations. And I want to have the public needs to have an opportunity, and the court needs to have an opportunity to digest this and to think what this what it means and whatever. I'm not comfortable today to look at this and make a decision. And I know we're not going to do that today.
Decision today.
I know.
We just wanted to put it on the video, out in public,
right,
in a way that everybody knows what the SRC went through.
Right.
You're not being asked to decide today anything.
Right. But what Magistrate Tice was talking about, I think, going through all of that on a first reading and what I'm not comfortable with that.
We weren't planning on it again. We would have had to kick back and start putting things on the overhead. We just wanted to describe the changes from the first reading to today.
Right. Okay.
That was it. It was going to be real simple. There's a definition and there's a chart and not much more.
Right. Okay.
And then this would be on the website.
But not Magistrate Logston.
Judge, so the public will know what I feel like is going on, and Kevin can correct me anything I do not say, because he was our parliamentary procedure guru. The whole question here is the way we set up. There's no right or wrong, but the way we've always done court is we have always had the first reading, and then you go back and digest it, then you come back and discuss it the second time. I think that's where everybody is. There's no right or wrong, but we're just trying to find some protocol to follow.
I understand that. I just asked if there was anyone who had questions. This is the second time the first reading has come up. Okay. So, but do not have any objection to having people ask clarification during the first reading. I just don't see what's wrong with it myself. Okay, so did we, have you gone through what the changes were? We'll just limit it to the discussing the changes and then we'll move on.
And the setbacks, that's it.
Man, should die.
It looks like to me that I don't see where we got a big change here. They can come to the first reading and they can tell us, Jim and his staff, all they want to tell us. That's not a discussion until I ask the question. So if they want to put all you want to put out on the table today, I don't see a problem with that. It's when, as you've said now, if someone has a point of clarification of what they said, not a discussion, not an argument, not trying to change it, I didn't quite understand what you meant there and go back and do that, I see no problem with that. It would be fluid probably because expect to come in on the second reading, as you said, see something, not clarify, but try to change it, and then vote on it. I don't think that, and we're here representing the public. Well, this is supposed to be a public hearing, the second one. But if the public don't show up, we're kind of on our own here. So I think the more that they say, because this stuff, I think I will agree with this. I'm not sure if anybody else will. Maybe I'm the only dumb one in the group, but this stuff gets pretty dicey. But, it's not the easiest stuff to read.
Right.
If you're not used to it.
Well, I think that's what I was inarticulately trying to go after was a clarification of what's in front of us.
Okay. Well, there are two changes from the original ordinance that you guys saw on May 2nd that will be prepared to fully discuss at the second reading in addition to the entire ordinance. And I'm going to take advantage of Magistrate Tice's suggestion to point out the page number to you. I just go over those two changes so you guys know what changed from May 2nd to June 6th. And the first one is on page 3, and it is a definition for event venue that is short, and I will just read it here fairly quickly. Event venue is a building and or property that is rented or hired for short-term public or private events of an assembly nature such as wedding receptions, conferences, business meeting, reunions, and banquets. So since we were going to have to come back to the fiscal court to redo our first reading because we did make changes in some setback requirements for the next subject we're going to talk about, we said, well, let's go ahead and take advantage of this and get a definition in there for event venues. And the other change from May 2nd to today is on page 16, number 7. And the significant change that we made there that the county attorney pointed out to us that it's probably best to re-advertise and go through our first reading again is in number 7. Okay, the prior versions of this required that for anyone that wanted to put up a ground-mounted solar energy system in their backyard for a single-family residence, they could put it as close as 5 feet to the neighboring property. And we realized just through discussion with the fiscal court magistrates and then the study review committee that was probably a bit too lenient. So what we came up with the endorsement of the Planning Commission Study Review Committee is under number 7, where basically it's stair-stepped up based upon your acreage threshold. So for any single-family residence that wants to put in a ground-mounted solar energy system where their property is 1 acre or less, it could not be any closer than 25 feet to a rear or a side or rear yard property line. They're not allowed in the front yard. If you would have 1 acre to 3 acres, the setback requirement would be 50 feet from any side or rear property line. And if you have 3 acres or larger, the setback requirement would be 100 feet from any side or rear property line. Those are the two changes from the first reading, and we're here today for our second first reading. And as Jim said, we'll put a PowerPoint together for the second reading on June 20th to go through the entire ordinance.
One question, since I haven't read the original first reading, what were the setbacks originally?
Originally, they just made reference to the zoning district that the property lied in, but ground-mounted solar energy systems are considered as an accessory structures. And in our zoning ordinance, accessory structures can be as close as 5 feet to a side or rear property line.
So in other words, less than 1 acre, you could have said, it would have read 5 foot.
It would have said 5 foot for any property in Oldham County, whether it was less than 1 acre or greater than 3.
Got it. So now we've specified what, and that makes sense. Good. Okay. Thank you.
I got a question, clarification.
One of
People are speaking out of turn here.
excuse me. Apologize.
Were you finished?
I had one other thing I thought of that I don't know whether it's my turn or not. To be quite honest.
Well, you had the floor, so go ahead.
Okay. One of the things that I was reading through, and Brian and I went through, is that, and I'm going to say this to the magistrates as I said it to him the other day, when you start talking about numbers, a big number like 300 can seem like a big number, or 1,000 can be a big number. But as we think about it and read it, you need to think about, is it feet, 300 feet, or is it 300 inches? So when you think setbacks, Brian and I went over this, got to think about and compare it to something that you can rationalize with, that if this is, and I do it on a football field, which is 100 yards, 300 feet. When I say this is a certain distance, I can visualize in my mind by going to football games how that distance is, even though it says 300, which is 300 feet, that and sometimes is not very much. And that's all that's on, then I'm through. Thank you.
Magistrate Dye.
Okay, on the, you said that the setback will be 25 feet.
If you were to have 1 acre or less.
Okay. Does that 25 feet include a easement? Is it the easement then 25 or 25 from the property line?
It would be 25 feet from the property line.
25 feet from the property line.
That's correct.
Okay. And then on the, you said it cannot be in the rear yard. Where does the rear yard begin?
Can't be in the front yard.
It cannot be in the front yard.
Where does the front yard begin?
Typically, the front yard, in terms of our interpretation, and correct me if I'm wrong, would be behind the house or the principal structure.
Behind it. Okay. Now I'm going to throw one more at you. You say it's behind. Is it going to be the furthest rear corner of the house or the furthest rear portion of the house? How some houses bump out in the back.
It's the front.
It's the distance, not the corner of the house.
Well, I'm just want to know. If I'm walking down your house, it's always going to be. I need some reference point. So it's where
from the property line to whatever it is you're measuring is always measured along, whether it's a square, a triangle, a circle, a curve. It's always measured to the shortest distance to that structure.
So in other words, the house got bump outs in the back. The furthest bump out to the back property line, that's where the backyard begins, correct?
Side.
I would say yeah.
From the front corner of the house.
Yes.
It's front corners of the house are in the front. Right. The front of the house is the front yard, not the back of the house.
Not so you're including in the dimension the side
it's
yard.
From the back property line, not from the front corner of the house.
Measure it up.
Yeah, so it's from the property line, wherever you're measuring from, not from another structure. So the front yard ends at the front of the house, but the rear yard starts at the back property line. So you measure from the back property line to this structure, whatever that distance is supposed to be.
Okay, is that defined in there? But is that piece of information in here?
It's pretty standard in all our regulations, right?
Yeah.
But it's in here.
It's in a different ordinance. It's like
elsewhere
R2,
in the
R1.
zoning ordinance where there's specific graphic drawings that will define just what you're talking about.
So it's covered somewhere in your
yes, in other
process.
parts of the ordinance.
Okay, that's all.
Okay, thank you. All right, I think I don't see any other hands, so we'll end the first reading here and move on and let everybody else read that.
All right, thank you, Judge.
All right, we'll go to our next item, see if we can get in trouble on this one. This is the first reading of the Administrative Code Ordinance. All right, Tina Schaaf, come to the front, please.
Good afternoon. Before you all this afternoon, we have the administrative code amendments. There are 4 or 5 minor things that we're changing to the administrative code. This was prompted by House Bill 522, the change in the procurement code. So we just went ahead and looked at all of everything that might need to be changed. So did you want me to go through everything, Judge, or there's not very many? I can go through it pretty quickly.
I don't know if anybody has looked at this or if there's anything
Just the
controversial
first
here.
reading. I don't know what we're supposed to do.
You could just hit the main items there.
Sure. The in Chapter 2, we are going to add the elected offices that need bonds that we do not have listed currently. Right now, we only have the judge executive, the sheriff, and the clerk listed as people that, as elected officials that have to have bonds. So we are adding the other 6. On the financial management section for Chapter 3, we had for number 8 and 9 under budget preparation. We had that the judge executive shall submit the proposed budget to the fiscal court by May 1st. But technically, it should say the first meeting in May, fiscal court meeting. And the same thing with number 9. We just took the actual date out of there and put the first meetings of the month that it's relative for the budget process. And the same for section 2 for the duties and procedures of the county budget committee. For item number 3, we did put the review shall be conducted at a meeting or meetings held by April 30th. The original version said April 21st, which I don't know where that date came from. And then number 4, that second part, that second sentence should read, the fiscal court members shall make inquiries, comments, and suggest changes to the proposed budget to the judge executive prior to the judge executive submitting the budget to fiscal court for the second reading. And then that is also the same for item number 2. It should say second reading, that last sentence. And then the procurement code for Chapter 4, House Bill 522 raised it from $30,000 to $40,000 to where we have to bid out projects. So we're going to raise that to 40 to reflect the changes in House Bill 522.
Okay.
So raising it from 30,000 to 40,000 for when we have to go out and bid a project.
This is all pretty straightforward and simple. So
And be effective
is
July
there a clarification sought here? Imagine.
Just so I understand, we have to do bidding at 40,000 or up, correct?
Right.
Now, at what levels do we still have to get?
Everything's going to remain.
Do we still have to get 3 prices?
Everything remains the same. Is it 3,000, Melissa? 3,000.
So
no change in the
3,000
other items.
and above, you have to just get 3 prices. Okay, I got it. Just moves up that with the other one. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Magistrate Hawkins.
Tina, sometime before the next reading, do you think we could get this presented where we have the blue letters and then the red strikes so that we don't have to, it's just easier than having the original and
I can get you that, yes.
Yeah,
but this is the ordinance, the way it's going to be adopted. But yes, I can get you the actual administrative code where the changes will be.
Is that 40,000? Was that is that from the state also? That 40,000
Yes.
change? Okay.
All right. Magistrate Woosley.
I just want to make the comment. This did come through the HR committee and was unanimously approved through the committees.
All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Tina.
All right, thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the second reading of our fiscal year 24 budget. This is a public hearing, so we'll have an opportunity if anybody is here who would like to speak for or in opposition to some aspect of this budget. They'll be able to do so. Stan, would you like to come forward and go through the changes that were made from the first? Are you prepared to do that? No? Okay. We have it here in front of us. From the first reading, we had added an administrative sergeant to the police at the 4 level there for pay scale and assumed medical employment for spouse and employee. That added additional cost to the police payroll of $147,614, and there was another $7,000 to the police added for a camera and mobile data terminal, radio, uniform, weapons, etc. So some other expense to that line item. The parks and the aquatic center, while we're working on that, all of a sudden we find out that the slide has to be replaced, and it's not anchored apparently as securely as we thought. And so that's a $360,000 charge, which is a net increase of $300,000 in the Parks Aquatic Center budget. There is dispatch. We're planning for a tower around the Ballardsville Fire Department to help communication in that area that may be less than optimal in certain parts of the area there. This is cost has gone up from $1 million to $2.5 million. And there's some dead trees to come out of the Wendell Park that was added to the parks budget. Also, we dropped a bush cutter for $30,000. Jail, we've got the grant request coming up here that is added, but we expect to be reimbursed for that. So that's a wash. And the sheriff added revenue and expense, no impact. On 23 grants for lasers, body armor, and that's expected to be awarded in June of this year, but not spent until July. So that is a wash as well. So our budget for the coming year looks pretty big here. A grand total of all funds is $77.7 million, but there is $21,781,000 coming out of reserves to balance the budget. The number of things that were expected to be done this year have not been able to be accomplished in the current fiscal year. So those items with the animal control building and work at Schomburg Park have all been pushed forward. May have been something, I guess, the work on the church renovation was pushed forward, with a number of things that were pushed forward. So that would have been done this year had we had the opportunity. So we have a balanced budget here for the second reading, and I believe the Finance Committee has looked at it and agreed with the budget. Is that correct, Magistrate Hounds?
Yes, sir. The Finance Committee has met several times and worked through the budget. We had a special call Finance Committee today, and it was unanimously approved to move the budget forward for you to present today.
All right, thank you. Okay, so that's almost accept that as a motion.
I would make that in the form of a motion.
All right,
yes,
and
sir.
I believe it was seconded by Magistrate Logston. All right. Is there any discussion among magistrates on the budget items? Magistrate Jeffries.
Just one quick thing. Just wanted to thank the staff and Melissa in particular, County Treasurer. They sent this to DLG, got it back with no comments, no dings or anything, and so it was approved. The first time that they looked at it at DLG. So I just want to thank them for helping us get through this process. It was my first time serving on Finance Committee, but it was a very, tough process, but they made it a lot easier. So I just want to publicly thank them for, getting that sent back, because I think that's the first time in a while that we've not gotten something back from DLG saying you need to look at this or correct that or whatever.
All right. Well, thank you. And we appreciate the finance, treasurer and chief financial officer, and the budget committee from Fiscal Court, and my staff. We've all worked on this to try to make it a good budget that serves the community and accomplishes some of the goals that we've laid out. Magistrate Hounds.
Just like to point out a couple of things. One is some of these projects that are coming to fruition now, we've been working on them for 3 years, and because of everything imaginable, they've been delayed. So the budget looks a lot bigger than normal because of those projects. We are in a very good financial situation because of the revenues that we receive. And those revenues have been, like, for example, this year we had anticipated spending around $8 million. I don't think we're going to spend any of that. So there's a rollover that keeps happening. So this is not going to be the norm. I don't want people to think that this is the normal budget that we're going to be spending, because we won't be able to do this.
No, we won't.
We won't have the cash to make these projects happen in the future.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Man should die.
Yes, and the money that was just approved for the hospital mental health initiative. When's the first payment come out? Is it in this budget here?
No, first in 2023.
So it'll be coming out of this budget after July.
No,
1.
this is 2024. The first payment for the hospital will be made this month.
Okay,
It's a 4-year. It's a 4-year commitment, but we can't extend into 4 years beginning next year, because we'd be putting restriction on a future fiscal court,
right.
which we can't do.
That's where I was going with it. So in other words, we're going to have to do a budget amendment, or maybe not on this year's existing budget.
No, we've got the money. We're just moving it from a different department that we hadn't been spending.
I just want to make sure we didn't get into the next
right.
quarter.
We've got to have the funds.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So, is there anyone else? Did you have? Okay. All right. So we have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now we're on to contract and the resolutions here. The salt award, Mr. Kimbler, and we have somebody we're going to buy the salt from here.
Yeah, we've got to buy it. We can't get it for free. Tried.
All right. No.
So I looked overall. We had Cargill, Compass, and Morton. Morton did come in less, but they had us obligated to take the middle of the road tonnage at 1,500 tons out of a 2,200 ton order. I was able to speak with a representative and got that tonnage knocked down to 1,000. Being which, if we had a mild winter as such last year, we would nowhere have a place to store 1,800, 1,500 obligated tons of salt. So as of now, we are going to award with your
Blessing.
yeah, you know what I'm trying to say here. With you looking over these numbers, with your agreement, $97.46 to Morton Salt, it obligated to 1,000 tons, would come in the best of the bunch.
All right. Manager Jeffries.
Just a question. If we were to have a bad winter and found out we were going to need 2,000 ton, I mean, do we have the option to? Will they match, or do they have to rebid that, or how does that work?
Now, this bid is actually bid in for, Melissa had helped me put the bid sheet together for 2,200 ton total.
Okay.
On this order, they were saying that if we did not take the entire 2,200, they were going to make us take 1,500, which is if we had a mild winter as last year, we couldn't house another 1,500. We only used 600 ton last year. So with that said, Morton agreed to say, okay, we'll sell you the 2,200. You're obligated to take 1,000 of that.
Gotcha. Perfect.
So with that being said, if we use the amount we did last year or not, we'll still have a place to house it. We're just not going to get stuck paying for it and not be able to use it.
Okay. With that, Judge, I'll move that we accept that bid from Morton Salt.
All right.
Second.
Moved and seconded the bid from Morton Salt for 1,000 tons.
2,200.
2,200
tons.
That'll be accepted. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone
Thank you.
opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
We have to do an annual standing order for certain recurring expenses.
All right. We have one other item to attend to with the budget, and that's the annual standing order for certain recurring expenses. And let's see. Is that a group vote, or do we have to have a roll call on that?
I think it's a roll call.
Well, heard two different things there. Anybody?
I think we've done a roll call in the past, Judge. But unless it's specific.
No, motion made by, well, the document here says motion made by this magistrate, second by another, and signed by me. So it's not asking for a roll call vote.
They've changed the form again.
Excuse me, I'm not doing well today. I've got something that I'm suffering with. So,
could it be a mental health issue? We got to.
Well, it's no. I got I have that. All that's continuous, but
I was hoping we could share a room.
Oh my gosh.
My voice isn't working real well today.
Want a
for whatever
butterscotch?
reason. All right, so we want to have everybody vote yes, please, to vote to approve the standing order to pay the lights and utilities and water bill and all the other things that are just a routine that we don't include month to month on the payables because they're routine.
So moved.
Yeah. Second.
All right. So is there a motion to accept this?
I'll make that motion, Judge.
All right. Motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now we are at the where are we? At the school resource officer contract. It's item F. As you all know, the schools pay the resource officers, and we pay for their equipment, uniforms, firearms, vehicles, and so forth. And we have a new step rate scale here that increases slightly the income for the school resource officers. Doesn't go up too much, but it does go up. And the Board of Education has approved this, and I'm going to ask the Fiscal Court to approve this as well. And
Judge, I'll make the motion that we approve the School Resource Officer Program Amendment number 2.
Number 2. Second. Okay. Mr. Logston, were you second on that? Okay. It starts at $34.40 an hour and goes up over 7 years to $38.98 by the year 37.38. So it's basically they're about $35 an hour for a school resource officer at this point. So is there any further discussion on that, Magistrate Tice?
I would like to ask one question. It says this agreement is made effective between the Oldham County Board of Education and the Oldham County Fiscal Court and the Oldham County Police Department. I believe that in my interpretation, it's only between the school board and the fiscal court, not the police department.
I agree.
I have no problem with it other than that. I just thought that did need to be there and shouldn't be there.
Okay.
You okay with that?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Then I'd like for it to be amended to read as such.
All right.
You have to remove it several times in the document. You'd have to change, because you've got OCPD listed 1, 2, 3 times. We need to change that to OC.
I believe this came from the Board of Education is why it's listed that way.
Okay.
That's not something.
I mean, as long as the fiscal court's named, I don't know that there has to be a change. Mr. Baxter would be the one to.
Well, I guess the concern is it's an amendment to an existing document that I don't have. So is OCPD a party to the existing document? It says Second Amendment to the School Resource Officer Program. Chief, do you know? I mean, are they a party to it before?
Can we ask Ms. Hornswoffer to go pull the original document? Can we do that?
Sorry to drag you up here,
That's
Chief.
one document that I received from them.
And do you know, I mean, were you all a party to the original agreement, or was the...
When it first started, yes.
So,
And the reason why we were party to that is because the police department was supplying the officers as SROs, and they fell underneath our supervision. That's why we were party to that originally. Not the payment, nothing like that. Just the fact that they reported to us.
and do they still operate in that capacity?
Yes.
I mean, it would seem to me, Magistrate Tice, that it would be appropriate that the department signs off on it in that they are a party to the agreement.
And if that's what the court feels like, that's okay with me. I just read it and going over, and I said, this doesn't make sense. It's between the fiscal court and the school board. Why have the police in it? So that's the reason I asked.
Well, I agree because we're underneath fiscal court, but
And see, that it's
right.
no big deal. It's just, yeah.
But that's what originally started. Is we supplied the officers, they reported to us, they're under our supervision.
I think we had, if Ms. Horn brings back the original document, and it's titled the same way, we ought to leave it for consistency.
I don't remember how it was titled, Chris.
I really don't think it hurts anything. I mean,
I just wanted to bring it up. I'm okay.
right. It just.
It's a good point, though, because
It is. Oh, there.
They are a party.
There's Miss Horn.
Then should I withdraw my amendment, or do we vote my amendment down?
Withdraw your amendment.
Withdraw.
Vote the amendment down.
Withdraw it. I mean.
I got it. No problem.
I don't think it's an issue because the police department can't make an agreement of its own. It doesn't have our permission to it anyway.
No, the final authority falls underneath.
Yeah. Right. So it's they don't quite probably understand that down there, but we do here.
What's
Woozle.
the verdict?
Judge, just as a point of order, about 3 weeks ago, maybe you all sent me an agreement between you all and the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office about being able to go across county lines to review. And I reviewed that, and likewise, the county is a signatory on that, but the police department also signed off on that. I think it's just kind of the way things have been done. So, just for consistency's sake, these agreements both have the police department signing off on it. So I would think it'd be, just to be clear, have the department sign off on it.
That's fine.
Judge, I brought this concern to the chief a couple of weeks ago. Our SROs aren't recognized as either an Oldham County Police Department officer or a school board employee, because when we gave our raises to the police department earlier this year, they weren't included. And when the school board gave out their, I think 6 or 7%, they weren't included. And I'm glad to see we've got steps in here, but this year it works out to about a 16-cent raise for those SRO officers. Whereas our police department got several percentage and the school board got about 7%. So I'd like to see at some point us address that to where we're either going to call them Oldham County employees or school board employees so that they get the benefits of either or agency.
Okay. Do you have a response to that?
No, I tell you, my response to that was when the SRO program started, they started at a very high rate, $32 an hour originally started. That hourly rate was actually one of the top in the police department. Now, when we looked at that, quite frankly, there were some internal discussions about that, and some people were unhappy with it, quite frankly, because they were making more than patrolmen who were out working the street and actually making more than some sergeants. So we looked at that this year, since we were on the STEP program, to even it out. And even it out was to put the SROs on the exact same step progression as the rest of the department is. Now, I have talked to Eric Davis and explained to him that the possibility that STEP may go up. Because whatever the cost of living is raised next year, if you add it to the STEP plan and you decide to increase that STEP plan, then the SRO should as well.
Yeah, and we had a good discussion with it, and I appreciate the chief doing that, but that was my only concern was they're not identified as one or the other, and at some point we need to do that.
Well,
they're Oldham County policemen.
I kind of disagree with that because they have year-round policing authority. We will use them during the summertime to fill vacancies, to work extra details. We use them that way. So they have police powers year-round. They are identified as Oldham County Police Departments or sworn as Oldham County Police Department officers. So they do have authority. But as far as explaining their position between the school board and Oldham County and fiscal court, they're Oldham County police officers, but yet the school board pays the salary. We have the final say in what happens to them.
And shouldn't they have gotten the same raise we gave the other patrolmen?
If they went on the STEP plan, they did, Mr. Woosley, because we used the 6.5% to raise the STEP plan up across the board.
Okay.
The patrolmen got it. They had already received it, quite frankly.
on their hire
there's-
because they were hired in at a higher rate. Is that what you're saying?
They were hired in at a higher hourly rate.
Okay.
All we did was just even it out.
That's all. Thank you.
I just have one question.
Magistrate Hawkins.
Chief, are they privy to benefits like taking their car across the county line and insurance?
Yes. Well, they don't have insurance. Most of them are on contract. So
Okay.
right now the contract's paid through Price State.
Okay.
They're all retired. Most of them are all retired officers.
Mhm.
All retired officers, yes. Right. And they can take their car like anybody else. They have to have the same training as everybody else. But basically they work 170 days a year for the schools, and there's an additional 10 days built in for training. But they're sworn police officers and they're full time. We consider them to be full time, and we do use them during the summer.
Yeah. I've gotten to know Officer Moore through school, and I mean, the kids just love him. He's fantastic. I think the SROs are just a great asset that we have in our county.
Thank you. I'll pass that along to him.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second here to approve the agreement with the Board of Education for SRO salaries. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item is the jail arraignment equipment grant. Melissa, would you like to explain that to the court?
House Bill 1 this year offers a video arraignment equipment grant to jails in Kentucky. The amount allotted to us would be $135,580, and this is an application to apply for that grant. We would purchase 12 mobile video arraignment units. We currently have 4. And those 4 are 5 years old, and they are stationary, meaning they're not mobile.
Okay.
That's it.
All right, is there a motion that be allowed to sign this request or this grant application?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Now we're at the committee reports and recommendations for our road committee, and that would be Magistrate Jeffries, I believe, and Sullivan.
Yes. Sullivan, if you want to explain, I guess
Yes.
we brought these to the road committee, and I think all of these passed with a positive recommendation to the court, and I'll let Mr. Sullivan explain each one in more detail.
Right, and to expedite this a bit, items 1 through 3 are all with regard to release of either erosion control or performance surety for subdivision construction. So all 3 have been inspected by the engineering department multiple times, and they have all been determined to be constructed in accordance with the approved plans, and that's why we are here now, and they've all, as Magistrate Jeffries said, received approval of the road committee for acceptance. The only difference would be on items 2 and 3 that those will require 2 motions because they require taking roads into the county. Okay. So the first one is the erosion control surety for reserves of L'Esprit, Section 1. We're recommending release of the surety in the amount of $60,975. And for reference, that is also located in the city of LaGrange, so we've coordinated this inspection and determination with the city.
Is there a motion that we release this bond?
Oh, Judge, I'll move that to the surety bond on L'Esprit, Section 1 be released.
Second.
Moved, seconded, discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Next item, please.
So item 2 is for Heather Ridge, Section 4, and this is a recommendation of the performance surety in the amount of $21,112.
Make it motion.
Second.
Second, do we remove the surety here for $21,112 at the Hunter's Ridge or Heather Ridge? Is it?
Section 4.
Section 4. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
So the second motion would be to take in the roads within Section 4 into the Oldham County Road Maintenance System as shown on the letter that I provided, and it totals in approximately 930 feet of roadway to take into our system.
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion made to take in the roadway here. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
So item 3 is for reserves of Deerfield, section 2. This is also a release of performance surety in the amount of $129,325.
Judge, I'll move that we release that bond of reserves of Deerfield, Section 2.
Motion made and second to release the bond of $129,325 from reserves of Deerfield, section 2. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
And the second part would be to take the roads within reserves of Deerfield, section 2 into the Oldham County road maintenance system. Those roads totaling 4,560 feet, so just under a mile.
So moved.
All right, moved and seconded to take the roads in the reserves of Deerfield, section 2 into the county system. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we have some personnel items to take care of. A couple of new people to join our team. Go ahead, Melissa.
Tina. Okay, we have personnel actions. We have Parks and Rec. We have a new hire, full-time laborer. His name is Daniel Pena, $18 an hour, and he's going to start tomorrow, the 7th.
All right.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made and second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
And then the second is a new hire at dispatch, Adam Vincent, a telecommunicator 2 at $28.24 an hour, and that'll be effective on the 26th of this month.
Judge, I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay. Moved and seconded to hire Adam Vincent. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
I did speak with Mr. Vincent, and he's very excited to be joining us, coming from another dispatch organization, and he's excited to be part of our team. That's great. Now we'll go on to some appointments here I'd like to make. First of all, I'd like to reappoint Gary Hardy for a term to the Oldham County Chamber Economic Development Board to expire June the 30th of 2026. I think everybody knows Gary, who was the Oldham County Man of the Year earlier this year, and has been a longtime banker in our community. Is there a motion to accept Gary?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. To the LaGrange Fire Protection Board, I'd like to appoint Kevin Vaughn for a term to expire on May 31st, 2027. Kevin actually, I believe, took Amy Alvey's place when she went off the board, and this would be he'd be serving in his own term now. And you see the biographical information on Kevin, and he's been a long-time public employee. I think he'd do a very good job. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay. Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Excuse me. Motion carries. To reappoint Joy Tabler now, I'd like to do that to the Pee Wee Valley Fire Protection Board. Joy is a nurse navigator, helps with many people who have emotional and mental health issues, and has really been an excellent member on the Pee Wee Valley Fire Protection Board. And is there a motion to appoint Joy?
So moved.
Second.
All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Same.
All right. Yeah, all right. So we have that vote is going to be 8-1 with one abstention. To the North Oldham Fire Protection Board, we reappoint Tony Issing for a term to expire on June 30th of 2026. Is there a motion to reappoint Tony?
So moved.
Moved.
Second.
All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. To the South Oldham Fire Protection District Board, reappoint Dennis Dybel, former mayor of Crestwood, to a term to expire on June 30th, 2026.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. And next one to the Westport Fire Protection District Board, reappoint William Hancock for a term to expire on June 30th, 2026.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Finally, we have Joe Dedman to reappoint him to a term on the Henry County Water District Board, number 2. That term would go on to June 15th of 2027.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Thank you. All right, we're sort of at the end of the road here now. Are there any final comments from the public before our meeting ends? I'll see no one for public comments, so we'll see if any of the magistrates would like to add anything final to today's meeting. Magistrate Logston.
Judge, nothing, just a public service announcement. People need to slow down and quit pulling out in front of people. It's like a wild, wild west out there right now. I saw 2 wrecks yesterday. Well, not one wreck yesterday, one before, where they pull right in front of somebody. It's like they don't want to wait anymore. So, and I understand that everybody's got a busy life. I understand that, if you wait 2 seconds, you're going to get caught by about another 10 cars, but it's not worth your life trying to beat somebody else into a parking lot or whatever. So,
right, you're absolutely right. Thank you. Measure die.
Measure Lawson, those are good rules that you should follow.
I know. I try to think every time I do.
All right, Measure Hawkins.
I'm not perfect, Bob.
I thought it was a good meeting today. Lots of discussion and good discussion around the budget and some of our amendments. So I just wanted to say that. But also, there's a new light coming. This was put in by the state, so this didn't have anything to do with us in the county. This is part of the state's plan, but it's going to be turned on next week, and it's on 393, close to I-71 between 22 and 146. So just be aware of that. And I was questioned about if we could put a warning as you approach the light, especially coming off of Elder Park there and turning to the right, or Echo Valley and turning to the left, or even Briar Hill and turning to the left. And so I talked to Matt at KYTC, and he had mentioned that we're going to look at the traffic and see, and study crash data there and to see if that's necessary. Because you're going 55, and if you've got a load of horses or a dump truck, it may be hard to slow down before you get to that light. So I guess we'll just have to be aware that there's a light there, and maybe reduce your speed on 393 from 55 to say 45, so that you do have time to slow down there if the light should be red by the time you get there. So I just wanted to make everyone aware that, to be cognizant of that light turning on next week there.
Okay, thank you. Measured Hounds.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Judge. Today is D-Day. Remembrance, everyone, the largest ever military amphibious landing. Also at the Kentucky Veterans Memorial Park on the South Oldham campus, there will be a flag retirement ceremony starting on Saturday at 10 a.m. If you want to bring your flag, you can do that. There's a box at the first floor of the Fiscal Court building if you want to drop it off, or there is a flag retirement box at the campus where you may bring your flag after 10 a.m. on Saturday. When I asked Mr. Jerry Nart, he's been collecting these flags. He's collected over 600 flags this past year, so quite a few flags for retirement. This past weekend was the WHAS Crusade for Children, and Oldham County did another shine this weekend in donating to the crusade. It's the only charity that I'm aware of where 100% of the money goes back to the community. All the administrative costs are paid for outside of the collections. The fire departments contribute the largest portion through collections through the citizens. North Oldham did $11,044. South Oldham was the winner this year at $65,000. $233.43. Ballersville did $11,574.97. LaGrange did $28,114. Westport did $3,395.87. And Pee Wee Valley did $18,640.05. Basically, most of that money is collected in the amount of about a 2-week period. So that's over $138,000 collected in Oldham County, which will come back to Oldham County for future grants. That's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Great job to the fire department.
He said north.
Pardon?
I just want to be cited here.
They were the first one, 11,044.
I mean, great job to our firemen again, and the people in the community who contribute to Crusade for Children. And that's something we can all be thankful for and proud of and optimistic about the future. So, Magistrate Jeffries.
Just a couple things, Judge. I just want to announce that a lot of people probably know by now, but Mattingly Court Extension is now open from Highway 393 to Highway 146. I think that's going to be a great asset over in that area to get some of the traffic through Buckner, and especially till we can get that underpass completed. But it looks like that's moving forward too. On the now, they're putting power lines in, they're moving gas lines, so hopefully that's going to happen sooner than later. Northridge subdivision over in my area on 22 has been repaving is completed over there. I think Mr. Sellerman went out today and inspected that, so I think they did a nice job with that. Ebbs Paving did that, got that completed. And I was by the new Buckner Kroger the other day. Looks like it's making great progress, and looks like it hopefully will be open here this fourth quarter. So
great.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Magistrate Woosley.
Judge, I just have the July 4th fireworks listed. We are doing those fireworks at the Wyndham Moore Park this year, and we'll have more information available on that soon. The third annual Oldham County FOP Lodge 62 Golf Scramble is September 30th at Eagle Creek Country Club, and information is on their website. Also had information here for WHAS Crusade for Children that Magistrate Hounds mentioned. Had a total of $6.3 million total raised, and $136,000 actually came out of Oldham County, which included a $500 donation from the Be Kind Sisters from the sale of their signs. And the last thing I want to mention is last week we had 990 graduates from the 4 high schools graduate from the Oldham County school system that had nearly $13 million in scholarships awarded to them. So just congratulations to those kiddos. Way to go. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Magistrate Tice.
Tice, yes.
All right.
And Magistrate Jeffries may have said it, but the extension to Commerce Parkway is now open. Did you say that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He said.
Yeah, and drove that just today. Nice. Very nice. Very well done. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And Magistrate Likens.
Thank you, Judge. I have nothing today, but I wish you would tell the public about our senior citizens seminar, kind of mention the dates so we can get that out there for people that might be interested in that function.
Right, that'll be on this coming Thursday from 10:30 to 1 at the Community Center. Seminar for senior citizens who would like to learn about how to avoid having your Social Security number lifted or used by other people, or fraud, or Medicare supplements, Medicaid, elder care law. We have a number of topics that are of interest to helping seniors in the community. So we welcome anybody who would like to come. We ask you to register by calling my office, 222-9357. Prefer you register. You don't have to, but we are going to have a few things, a light lunch, and so we're trying to get a handle on how many people to expect and so forth. I would like to mention the flag retirement ceremony. That is at South Oldham High School. The unit, or the burn pit that we have there for the flags are burned, was made as an Eagle Scout project by a young man. He did a tremendous job on that, and that was really something nice to have. So I can't think of his name right now, I'm sorry, but I really appreciate him. We found out this morning from the chief that since mid-May, I believe, didn't you say 46 cars have been stolen? rummage through. Right. Since May 16th, and a number of them have been stolen, though, right? And, so, we keep saying lock your car. Don't find out the hard way. I mean, it's crazy that people just don't lock their vehicle because there are people coming out here from, different somewhere who are interested in taking something from you if they can find it, if it's of any value in your car. So please lock your car.
Judge?
Yes, sir.
On that same vein, I brought this up, I think, a couple of weeks ago, and I saw it again on the national news, that talk about all the gun violence. Most of the gun violence are from people that have stolen guns. And the guns are stolen usually in two places, a home or a vehicle. Much larger degree are in a vehicle.
Right.
And so if you've got a weapon in your car, take it inside. Don't leave it out there thinking somebody just might come along and get it.
Right. Just good point. And I want to mention that the annual Arts on the Green is coming up this weekend. It's at Maples Park in Crestwood. And it used to be at the courthouse. We'll get it back to the courthouse someday, I hope. And the courthouse got 2.5 years to go. So that would push that up to 2026, I guess, before Arts on the Green could come back to LaGrange. But support it wherever it is in our county. It's a great way to be exposed to a lot of unique things. There's so many talented people out there making things that it's really cool. So that's both Saturday and Sunday, midday to about 4 in the afternoon at Maples Park in Crestwood. So with that, thank you all for being here today. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We're adjourned.